I've been in a lot of relationships, and yes, I've been in relationships with younger women, this being one of them. And I can tell you right now that that did play a factor. Age was definitely an issue, experiencing maturity. Um, but I also have a tendency to get involved with people that have a troubled background. And that being said, I'll just kind of give you a short, brief history of that person's background and let you guys decide. I'm not doing this video for any other reason but to have closure, I believe, to tell my side of the story, to give you some factual information as I know it, and let you decide for yourself. I'm by no way, in no way am I trying to do this for sympathy or to have you join forces with me in any way or to cause hateful or hurtful things towards anybody else. I would like to speak my mind though, and I would like to share with you some of my feelings and some of my opinions. And some of those might be pretty extreme because of what happened and how it affected me and what the results were. Um, but I think from now on, I will have to like I will alternate cameras. So live on YouTube, which YouTube channel actually has a pretty detailed history of the last year. I did weekly updates or biweekly or even monthly updates on my YouTube channel, dating back to July when I was released from Virginia Mason Hospital in Seattle. It was a very difficult time for me because I went through a pretty significant health issue in the middle of last year, and and because of it, I made some changes in my lifestyle and in my health and my diet and stuff that has significantly helped my life and what I go through with Crohn's disease. Mentioning Crohn's disease, I in the in the relationship that I was recently in and was the result of this video. Um, I was involved with somebody who claimed that they accepted the fact that I had a disease. I have Crohn's disease. I've had it since 1999, so 20 years exactly, and I've only been symptomatic for the last five. As some of you know, I was in charge of some car shows, Subaru car shows in the nation. And my first experience with Crohn's and what happens with Crohn's was actually right after Boxer Fest in 2014, I believe it was. Yeah, 2014. I was hospitalized in Presbyterian Hospital in New York, and it was my first experience with a significant blockage and ended up dodging surgery, but that was pretty much the start of things. So since then, I've actually been in the hospital yearly. I'd say 2 to 7 times for anywhere between 2 to 7 days at a time, up until July of last year, which where I was actually hospitalized for 2 months, roughly, at three different hospitals. So, little background there. Some more information is that this event that happened to me is definitely probably definitely the most significant event that's happened in my life as far as a life-changing event. Um, I don't look back on it as a negative thing. I try to take every bit of positivity from every event that I've been through in my life um, out of whatever I went through. Um, I disclaim that, but at the same time, it was hard. It has been hard, and it still is hard. And I'm going through it as I can every day, and I'm trying my hardest. And at the same time, I'm trying to become or re-become or rediscover who I used to be. Some of you guys know me as a journalist for rally events. I used to go live all the time from multiple rally events all over the Northwest. And how do you guys like Lucy? She's a little upset because there's another animal outside, so she's gawking right now. Um, so I used to be very charismatic and personable, and I love to approach people and become friends. I've always been known as somebody that speaks their mind and positive in every way that I can be. And no matter what happens between me and anybody else, I almost never, I can't say I've never, but I can say I've pretty much try to not inflict any sort of negative feelings or statements towards anybody. Um, and I kind of live by that code. Speaking about the way I live, I was raised in a family where my parents were married for 50 plus years. I was raised to respect women. I was raised in a typical nuclear family. You know, three kids, white picket fence, and a dog. It was. I was raised, I think, in an amazing way. Thanks, mom, for that, and my brothers too. Um, so I say that because I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me, but then I'm also going to give you a little bit of background on the other person and let you guys decide from there. Um, I have been married once for 8 months. It was a short period of time to my daughter's mother. Um, she was also very young, and I moved her out of an environment where she was comfortable. And then also that was a very troubling part of my life because I was still kind of in the troubled part of my life of addiction. I have been sober for 12 years, and oh God, without picking up my phone, 12 years and 5 months ish. My sobriety is probably the most precious things to me as far as valuable things in my life, and I absolutely adore it because the person who I was before my sobriety, um, I was troubled. You know, I was definitely. I went through hard times, and I was a mess. I caused my family a lot of heartache. I was a self sabotager, so I'd become successful either in school or in jobs, and then I totally sabotage myself by going out and doing drugs or drinking and doing bad things for myself. So um, sobriety was the way I chose to change my life, and that was a super positive thing. Um, those of you guys who didn't know me back when I was an addict, just know that you're blessed. I've definitely found sobriety and working a good program as probably one of the most positive things in my life. Um, I've learned from working a good program, a lot of things in life can be approached in the same direction and with the same tools. And I try to build my tool set as much as possible when it comes to dealing with life's trials and tribulations, um, with a base tool set of being that sobriety. I'm a love fanatic. I'm a passionate person. I absolutely love romance. I'm heartfelt. I'm romantic. I'm a poet. I'm somebody who does everything that I can in my heart to show somebody that I love them and to take care of anybody that I'm in a relationship with, especially in the best way that I can. I'm I know that it doesn't matter much, but I do give gifts to the people I'm involved with or in a relationship with, and that will become relevant when I start telling you exactly what happened here. Um, I don't think gifts are a big thing, but it is nice to actually. I think the most valuable thing in a relationship is the gift of being able to have mutual respect and communication and some of the basic um, things that you hear from your partner or in that you desire, and that are true and that are. Oh, I'm stumbling on my words, but basically, you guys know what I'm saying. Um, I am a huge fan of making sure that communication is the best way of solving things. So that will roll into exactly what happens a year ago today. I was involved in a relationship with a younger woman who was had a history of a very violent background upbringing. Um, she had been in domestic violence situations with her family, a family where there was no mother and father from pretty much the get go. She was an orphan a couple times. She was in and out of foster home, I believe. And when I met her, she was basically homeless as well, living with a family member and didn't have much. That has really nothing to do with it, but I need to give you guys a little bit of background to show you who this person was and is. Um, I met Tara at my job and thought that she was attractive, and she thought that I was, and that we had kind of a quick whirlwind more romance. She needed a place to live shortly after we met and went out for a date, and I had a place, and I was willing to open up my place for her, and I did so. some of you that are watching, or some of you that know me, knows that was pretty much the start of the end. I changed from that point on. I focused a lot of my energy in that relationship on her, and I probably shouldn't have, in hindsight. But I became a hermit. I didn't talk to anybody. I wasn't really allowed to. She was very insecure about phone use and about communication with anybody but her. So I changed from that point on. Um, it was, from what I know now, my mistake, but it was also a learning experience. It will never happen again. And it's happened before. So, as much as I'd love to say it will never happen again, those are thoughts. We had a whirlwind romance. She was fresh out of a relationship that she actually said was highly violent, that she actually ended with an open domestic violence charge against her because of a violent situation that resulted in some property damage with her boyfriend prior to me. A little bit more history. Boyfriend prior to that was also a violent person, and had physically and emotionally wrecked her. So that's two back, and I'm pretty sure the third one, the one before that. Um, I quickly got kind of caught up in the life of a relationship. I worked full time. I had an apartment in Belfair, and I, I'd been there for about 3 years, so I had a collection of my possessions that I've collected over my lifetime, and there I was, me and my dog, and a new roommate slash girlfriend, and that's kind of how I approached it. um, Things really kind of went pretty quickly. And I found out very quickly that she had a problem with infidelity or staying faithful. And that was because I found out shortly after her moving in that she was actually splitting her time between my place and another guy's place. And I was basically a storage unit that fed her cats. I every time that I would discover something like that, and I would try to communicate with her that, hey, that wasn't kind of cool the way the things that I felt they were. If she was wanting an open relationship or to be, polyamorous, then we could have a discussion about that. But I'm not in a relationship with somebody just to find out they're in a relationship with somebody else. So every time I did catch her doing something like that, from that point on, though, it just got worse and worse as far as her guilt level went. She's a horrible, uh, not a horrible person, but she's a really good liar, and and so she is probably one of the best. Actually, she told me that her mother was the best liar in the world, um, and I found that out. I found out that she's pretty bad. Her mother, not so much. Her mother was a great woman that I actually became very close with, and had a really great conversational relationship with. Anyway, her background was a lot of violent ex-boyfriends, brother that actually used to violently physically fight with her, and also is currently in prison facing in prison for life for murder. Yeah, shocker, right? And so I bits and pieces started coming in. I found paperwork from a domestic violence situation she had with her father, amongst her things when I was moving them around. And then I quickly realized that I was not only her roommate and boyfriend, but I was kind of her parent. As sick as that sounds, I did her laundry, I did her dishes. It was got to the point where it was pretty pathetic. And looking back on it, will never happen again. I do a lot of domestic things with somebody who I love, and I do my best to make sure that people are taken care of. But this was the extreme of both of those, and I feel bad for enabling it. Anyway, during the 2 years up until March 28th of 2018 that we were together, I have bona fide proof and also admission from her that she cheated on me 8 times. So multiple times with one guy named Josh. Her ex-boyfriend was the second guy. So multiple times. Then she ended up hooking up with one of my old coworkers at a wrecking yard I worked at. She hooked up with multiple coworkers, and so without going in depth about each one of these things, I can tell you right now that I caught her each time because of the suspicious behavior and kind of kind of get this general feeling that things were kind of not right. But also, uh, because I did look at her phone. I did find messages that were very sexual and very, hey, let's break in the backseat of your car kind of stuff. And it was tough. It was tough. I'm a 43-year-old guy, and I've been 21, 20 years old before, and I'm a very forgiving person. In my recovery, I've learned to be probably one of the most forgiving people in the world, and to a fault. I probably forgive people way too much than I should, and I'm going to work on that. So I forgave her a number of times with the promise that she would be better, or that she would try harder in a relationship. She, over the years, and I guess publicly on Facebook, has claimed that we were broken up during these cheating sessions. But if you think about it, that many guys, that little time, technically, I wouldn't have engaged with her after a year, engaged with her after a second year, if I thought for any chance we were breaking up like every 2 weeks, so she could have a little tryst with somebody else. So logic has you thinking that maybe that was incorrect. I never broke up with her. She never broke up with me. She may have sent some text messages that were along those lines, but it never got to a conversational thing. Um, Here's some opinion. Not a big fan of the way that the 20 somethings use text messaging as their backbone. I'm sorry, but if you're going to have a conversation with me, or if you're going to have a meaningful relationship with somebody or your family or anything like that, grow up, use the phone, or go talk to them in person. That is the number one piece of advice that I have for you. Um, she was a keyboard warrior. She still is to this day. I'm sure of it. I just saw a post this morning about her feelings about today. Um, there are so many people that I've known over the years, last, I don't know, I'd say since Facebook existed, that have completely turned from being, normal people into people that hide behind the screen and basically will say whatever they want on the internet, and trolls, call them whatever you want. But especially in relationships, if you text somebody anything harsh, or if you get in an argument with somebody, don't don't by any means spend any time text messaging or messaging about it. That's my piece of advice that I learned from this relationship as well. Um, a lot of things can be misconstrued. Different voice patterns aren't listened to. You don't hear tone of voice. You don't hear innuendo. You don't hear joking. You don't hear any of that stuff. Text messaging is horrible. I'm not a huge fan of it. I love it for communicating, hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I love it for communicating, hey, I love you. I hope you have a great day. But I absolutely despise it for anything important, anything about feelings, or anything about emotions, or anything about arguments. Seriously, it is probably the worst thing that humanity has for it today. As you can tell, I've got some feelings about that. So in the 2 years, 8 different guys. I had to find out, definitely not by her admitting it. Um, she actually moved out after a year of us being together. She actually blamed that on my dog. For those of you who know Lucy, seriously, she claimed that Lucy was a violent dog that attacked people, that attacked her. She absolutely hated my dog. I have numerous amounts of text messages from her threatening to kill my dog. Um, I will be posting links to text message evidence as well as photo evidence about all of this on these videos, on the YouTube video as well as the Facebook video. So watch out for those. I don't have them right away, but I will definitely post those. There will be photographic evidence about what happened on March 28th, 2018. There'll be a number of text messages over the years from her to other guys and her to me, and a whole bunch of lies. But it will give you an idea of what I dealt with, but it would also give you some evidence and proof and factual information to base your opinions on, and whatever it be. Um, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I appreciate y'all for being there. I absolutely love the people who are tuned in now, or that may watch this video, that I've met over the years through the rally community, through the car community, and through my family and friends. So um, I want you all to know that I'm not doing this again for any other reason but to have closure, to tell my side of the thing, of what happened. It's been exactly 1 year. I've been completely silent on the internet or on social media about what happened to me. And I will pretty much only have this video, and that's it. I won't talk about this anymore. I will not gloat or be, uh, I guess, remorseful or anything like that on the internet or through social media from this point on. So I was engaged to Tara twice. I engaged with her the first year. After 1 year during Christmas, she moved out shortly after. On January 1st, I came home from the hospital from being in the hospital for Crohn's, and I found Tara packing her things. I asked her what was going on. I had a friend there with me. Um, my friend Todd, as well as my friend Cody, were both there. And Todd, Cody, if you guys watch the video, you guys can comment below and confirm the story. But ultimately, what happened was I said, I didn't get in her way. I didn't really try to stop her from doing things. I just told her I loved her, and I was fresh out of the hospital from 7 days in there from being having a major Crohn's attack, a flare up, and she started loading her car and ultimately tried to grab an engine that belonged to me, and which she actually currently has and stole from me again. But she grabbed this engine and started dragging it towards the door. And I said, "Really, you need to keep that, leave that here because it belongs to me." And I went over and put my hand on the other end of the carton, and she yanked it from me a number of times, and then full shoulder checked me and tackled me into the engine. Um, Very physical altercation. She got up, he screamed a few things, ran out the door, and drove away. Ultimately, Cody asked me to call the police based on what he had just seen and the fact that he's a concealed weapons permit holder, and his reasoning was that I needed to call police or he would. So there was a physical altercation between Tara and myself in front of witnesses on January 1st, 2017. Um, but there was never really any police report made. There was actually a evidence of it in the 911 calls, and there was a bleep about it on the police report that day, but there was never any report made. They verified that she was okay. I had said that I wasn't really bothered too much by it. Obviously, it hurt. Obviously, it bothered me, but she was out of the way, and from what I believe, she was gone for good. Unfortunately, within a couple of months, well, during the month of January, she was remorseful for moving out. I missed her. Ultimately, after about 30 days and 6 different visits, we got back together. And then she was arrested on those domestic violence charges down in Thurston County and jailed over a weekend, and ultimately went in front of a judge, and the other person that was involved in the domestic violence, or the victim, never showed up. So the charges were dropped, and away she went. Um, Accountability. Let's talk about that for a minute. I'm a huge fan of accountability, and I'm not going to make any sort of these statements and judge a whole generation based on one person and my experience with them. But I will tell you, in a generality, people that are from this millennial generation, late teens through their late 20s, I definitely recognize the fact that there's a huge problem with accountability with a lot of people in that age bracket. The extreme portion of that being the person that I'm speaking about. There was just, nothing ever was done wrong by that person. Everything was everybody else's fault, and nothing that she did wrong was ever apologized for, made good of. Any of that stuff was never ratified. So I do have an opinion about that, and I probably will for a long time, and I will probably make some. Um, oh God, some stereotypical assumptions of people that age for a while. But if you are that age and you're a friend of mine, and we've already talked about this, just know that I don't make that judgment on anybody, everybody. I just will say that from my experience, a good portion of the reason why this happened is also accountability. I am a huge fan of integrity. I'm a huge fan of honesty. I just spoke to you briefly about my sobriety. A huge, huge, huge part of my sobriety, a huge part of my program is honesty. A huge part of my addiction life was dishonesty. So, in my program, I do my best to make sure that I don't sugarcoat shit. I don't. I'm not dishonest with people. Yes, I do have a tendency to tell I bend the truth a little bit at work and sometimes in real life, but by no means are they harmful things that I bend the truth about or um, hurtful things in any way. So I want you guys to know that a good portion of my life, pretty much for the last 12 years, I will have to say it took me a few years to roll into it. Um, but I've been honest with everybody that I come across and with myself. So I do everything in my power to make sure that people know how I feel, people know what my opinion is, and also I let people know what I think about them and how much fun or how thankful I am for their hospitality or their reaching out and communication. I'm a huge fan of communication. But I, I know that in the relationship I was just in, that was a huge factor. The factor of me being honest and the other person being massively dishonest. And a good portion of the reason why she is still claiming a victim is because she has to maintain the lie in order to make sure that the people that she's surrounded herself with still maintain this kind of overall umbrella of, oh, poor you, oh, you're going to be okay, oh, you're the victim. And by no means am I claiming to be a victim in this situation, but neither is she. I can tell you that much right now. Um, so a year went by, violent event after 1 year, massive amounts of indiscretion and cheating and infidelity. I did let her back in my life after that. I actually tried to change things. I said that you can move back in, but we're not in a relationship. But that, quickly switched gears. And I am completely to blame for that. So is she. We both were. Um, if there's one wonderful thing I can say about her, it's that she had a great work ethic. She when she did finally get a job after, so in the 24 months or ish that she lived with me, she worked for about 10 of them, and out of those other months, she never paid rent or anything. Um, but when she did have a job, she worked it. It was good. But we worked, both of us worked, and we did what we could to spend time together. My big issue was my health. Every time we tried to do something or go out and do something, I would have some serious physical issues with going out or being out for a long period of time. I saw that that bothered her, and I gave her a number of chances to go out too. I said, "Listen, my health isn't really awesome, and being with me really, can be rough in the regard of, hey, I want to go out and do stuff or I want to make plans, and then my health ends up getting in the way. You guys have seen the commercials on television about Crohn's disease. It's very unpredictable. And now, after being without this situation for a year, I can tell you right now that a majority of the relationship, um, the result of it was stress levels that were so high that were causing my physical being to be altered and affected in bad ways because of the stress levels that she put me in. I'm a better man now. So as of July of this past year, when I was discharged from Virginia Mason Hospital, um, I changed shortly after I changed my diet, as they were always telling me to, and I was totally not listening. Changed my diet, changed my ways, and because of it, I've never felt better. So huge, huge shout out to doing what they tell you when it comes to diet, but also I am very proud to have done that, to uh, be able to change the ways that I do things in order to have better health. So that's a huge positive of the last year. On March 28th, actually I'll go about a week before that. I had found out at the beginning of 2018, after I'd proposed to Tara a second time and went out ring shopping and did the whole nines about being engaged, that she was actually cheating on me again with a coworker of hers. And it bugged me, but I approached it just that I had done a number of the other times. And this time I actually was a little bit more proactive. I knew the guy at her work that she was doing this with. And at one point, I went down to a bar that they were both at, and I talked to him privately. And I said, "Hey, dude, I would really, really like it if you would just backtrack a little bit, backpedal, and not be a part of us, because I'm engaged to her and I would like to stay that way." I found out shortly later that night that that was the first night that she cheated on me with him. Um, so I found out about that on, I don't know, let's say March 18th. Um, and so I had the chance to talk to her, and I said, "Listen, we've got to basically fish or cut bait now. I mean, I can't do this anymore." And we both decided civilly that we would end our relationship, and that was awesome. So in that case, I was relieved, but I also gave her the option of staying. I said, "Stay at the apartment for at least another month while you get situated," because she was having to move two cats, a dog, her stuff. In the 2 years that we were together, even though she didn't pay rent, she collected about six different cars. Um, and I showered her with all sorts of gifts, relationship gifts, just silly stuff, but huge amounts of Christmas stuff, huge amounts of birthday stuff, and so she had a lot more getting out of the relationship than in. Um, so we had decided that we were going to end things, but we were still going to go to Florida together. I had a family trip planned with my son to go to Florida and her and spend time with my mother and go to Universal Studios. And it was awesome trip planned. Anyway, we had decided, I had asked her, I said, "Do you think you could be a part of this as friends and go on this trip together?" And she agreed. And so that was that. The rest of that week was pretty normal. We both went to work, came home just fine. There was even really no animosity between us. But on March 21st, she came to my place of work during break time, and she went to the back where people park, and she got into my car and took my a title to the vehicle that I had just actually purchased from my boss. Um, the title was not in my name yet, and I didn't know what she was doing back there until well after it had happened. I went to my car at lunchtime and found my glove box had been trifled through, and sure enough, I found the paperwork missing. So I knew exactly what she was doing. I found out kind of quickly that she was being spiteful. She ran to the DMV and had it licensed in her name. She forged a bill of sale, which is actually documented now, and away she went with a state title to my vehicle. I was sold the vehicle by my boss. It was in disrepair. The plan was to fix it up and sell it, but I was using it as a daily driver to get to and from work as well. So this bugged me, but I couldn't do anything about it. I actually went down to the North Precinct of Mason County Sheriffs and I talked to them about it briefly, and they said that I had to talk to the State Patrol or the DMV, that they couldn't do anything about it, which I now know is bullshit because it was all in their ballpark. There's a lot of this that goes on with the law enforcement. I found out it's that guy's, it's that guy's, yeah, ultimately it was all Mason County. Speaking of Mason County Sheriff, and I hope somebody actually shows this video to Sheriff Casey Salisbury, whatever his name is. It's bullshit. It's the most corrupt sheriff's office in the whole state of Washington, as far as I know. I thought Kitsap County was bad, but seriously, Mason County is junk. Massive amounts of corruption, collusion with the prosecution office, all sorts of good old boy shit. And when it comes down to it, you guys have to cut that shit out. The amount of laws that were broken actually by state officials and by sheriff's department during this whole event is astronomical. So yes, I'm calling out Mason County, Washington's sheriff's department and law enforcement in that area. And I will just tell you right now that come at me because this is bullshit. The way that they treated me that night, but also from that point on, it was absolutely unbelievable. Um, Quick side note: if you live in America and you think that we truly live in a justice system where you're innocent until proven guilty, this is a really quick reality check for you that we do not. It is actually the exact opposite. You will be guilty until proven innocent in anything that you are accused of: traffic offenses, possession of anything, violent offenses, major crimes. You are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. There is nothing proving me different. I've been in the judicial system and the legal system more than once, and both times that it was that case. This time, luckily, I did have legal representation, private legal representation that was fantastic, and I learned a lot of things, even more so this time, about the law and about collusion between prosecution offices and sheriff's offices. But I have absolutely zero respect and I have absolutely zero confidence in any of the departments, sheriff's departments in my area. and their reliability, ability to uphold the law correctly, to approach a situation unbiasedly. I am really sorry, but if you are part of that kind of group, I no offense to you, but I hope that you're a police officer that does all of those things I just mentioned. But I have not met one. So back to the story. March 21st, she steals the title to my vehicle, went and titled it in her name, and I couldn't do anything about it. My boss was an awesome, awesome guy, and he supported me in every way up until this whole event and afterwards. He sold me the vehicle in good faith for a very small amount of money, and it was supposed to be one of those things where I could flip it, make a couple dollars, and put that money towards my other vehicles so I can make them good. Um, so I realized real quick there that there was now a change of atmosphere. I didn't know really what to do about the vehicle, but ultimately, the next couple days were rough. March 28th, 2018, I went to work just as I did any normal day. And I worked a full shift and I came home and I found my significant other, Tara Burke, working on her car. I went inside, changed my clothes, came out, offered my assistance, helped her for about an hour, and then went back inside. And everything was absolutely hunky dory. I mean, it wasn't lovey between us, but it wasn't negative in any way. There was nothing harsh said. It was just two people helping each other out, or me helping her out. Went inside, cooked her favorite dinner, put on her favorite television show, went back outside as I commonly had to do, reminded her to eat. I said, "Come on in, dinner's ready." Gave her food, went into my bedroom and closed the door. I took my sleep aid medicine that night. I started taking Ambien about 6 months before because I had some trouble sleeping with pain. And then I also took some pain medication. 45 minutes later, my significant other walked into the room and I could tell she was red in the face. She was agitated, angry, whatever it be. She jumps up on the bed and she demands my phone. At this point, we are not in a relationship anymore. She is currently supposed to be looking for a place to live and having massive troubles doing that because she has three animals and doesn't make a lot of money to do so. And I think she was really panicky about what she'd be doing in the next 3 4 weeks as far as place to live. Anyway, I hand her my phone with no problem. I never held anything back or didn't share anything from my significant other. Oh, you know what? I have a great idea. Move the chain. Oh, here we go. Um, so I wouldn't hold anything back or hide anything from my significant other in a relationship. But ultimately, I gave her my phone. She flipped through it for a few minutes, and within about 5 or 6 minutes, she found something that really upset her. And looking back on it, I think it's the silliest thing ever. So, just a little background: I grew up from 1975 until now. In the 1980s, I was 5 years old to 15 years old, and during that decade, which is my favorite decade in the world, I picked up the habit of calling guys dudes, and I call girls babes. When it comes down to it, it's very common in California as well. Dude and babe just kind of fly right out of my mouth, no matter who you are. Even my dog gets called babe. Um, Inanimate object would be called babe if I'm angry at it or if I'm talking to it or whatever it be. So that background being said, I had sent a text message to a friend of mine who was at the time pregnant without the assistance of the other person, who I was doing my best to make sure that she knew that there was people out there that cared. And I sent her a message that said something along the lines of everything's going to be all right, comma, babe. So that babe in that sentence ultimately meant that I was sleeping with that person, that was my baby with her, and that I'd been cheating on Tara the whole time. So, as that an example, during the whole relationship, I think I was accused of cheating on her 100% of the time. Meanwhile, she was cheating on me. So I know you guys know probably the correct terminology for that. But when somebody does something that is pretty bad or does something dishonest, and they mirror that onto the other person to make them the person who is being accused of it, that was Tara through and through, no matter what it was. Still to this day, she violently attacked me that night. I was accused of it, and she's going to stick with that lie up until the end of time, most likely, until she becomes accountable, stands up, becomes honest, and actually says what happened that night. But will that day ever happen? Doubt it. Super doubt it. Super, super, super doubt it. Anyway, March 28th was just like any other day. Cooked her dinner, put on Walking Dead, went into my room, was flipping through my phone, and this happened. So she became notably upset. In the history of our relationship, every time that this had happened, what I would usually do is I would open my arms and I would say, "Come here, give me a hug, let's talk about this." I'm a huge fan of talking things out and conversing about disagreements and in the history of the 2 years that we were together, I was violently attacked by her more than 6 times. I'd say 6 to 8 times. I had had cranial hematomas. She punched me a number of times in my face. She crushed my ribs so hard one time that I believe they cracked. They were definitely painful for probably 6 months or more. Couldn't snowboard because of that. There was some serious violent, physical violence that came out of her. I knew that that was kind of the way she dealt with things with her upbringing. She dealt with things in a fight or flight mode, and I by no means would ever get in her way. I would try to get her to not flight, but I would never force her by any means to stay present. I would tell her that it's probably the best for us to be able to talk about things, but I also respect the fact that some people need to cool down, and huge fan of that actually. Anyway, in no way did I ever get violent with her. I physically defended myself a few times by lifting my arms, by pushing her back from me, not pushing away. But in a lot of cases, there was really not an equality of things that were going on. Anyway, so March 28th, she's sitting on my bed. She gets notably upset about it and about this text message. I get up out of the bed. I said, what's going on? And she basically does a push and shove thing, slams me up against the closet doors, which causes the landlord upstairs to be alerted. And then I came up from being pushed against the closet doors, fell into her, and she took her keys and placed them through her knuckles. I'm sure you guys have seen that trick, and she smashed me in the face with that full-fledged punch. Tara's a tough girl. I've never shown toughness. I'm not the lumberjack of guys. Definitely, actually, a little bit feminine in my lifestyle. Um, uh, Tara, on the other hand, is very masculine, and she punches like a guy. And this split my face open right here. There's actually still a scar. Actually, YouTube might be able to see it, but you guys probably can't. Anyway, pretty significant scar there, and up here. Anyway, my face just gushed out blood at that point, all over what I know now was my phone, and we were both on the ground, and the altercation lasted a total of maybe 30 seconds. Door, you know, door got knocked on. My landlord was down there. He heard the whole closet door thing. He was down within 60 seconds. And I picked up my phone and I told Tara that, hey, I have to call the police. This is the last time this is going to happen. So yeah, I was a guy. I was violently attacked by my girlfriend in a domestic violence situation. I'm not afraid to admit that. I am definitely not a victim, but by no means is she either. I'm not going to call her the perpetrator. I'm not going to try to claim any sort of her against me thing. I just want you guys to all know the truth. Um, the slightest amount of altercation between two people, even a yelling match, can be a domestic violence. And in Washington State, one person has to go to jail, and that's the unfortunate thing. Um, she attacked me that night. I was definitely physically affected by it. I called the police. Police came, separated us. I told them exactly what had happened. I also told them that this had happened before, and whatever she was telling them in her little story ultimately caused them to come in and tell me to put my hands behind my back, and they arrested me. I was charged with assault two that night, which is a Class B felony. I was charged with kidnapping because they state that I was standing between her and the door, which I never was. We both fell on the ground at the same time, um, but it was pretty scary. Police took me to the hospital where they super glued my face. I fell asleep in the police car because I'd taken my medicine, so I was totally like not really coherent. Was taken to the hospital and then taken to jail. My boss of the time bailed me out, and pretty much within the next 12 hours, he had a bail bonds company bail me out, and I was released. Um, Luckily, my good friend Todd, if you're there, hello, I love you, um, was in communication with her, and she had agreed to let some of my stuff go. He went over there to pick it up, and luckily, I got some clothes and a vehicle. But all of my possessions are still to this day at my own place. If there's anything that you guys can really think about being such a scary situation, is imagine all of the things that you have in your place, your house, apartment, whatever it be, and imagine just in one blink of an eye, you have nothing. It's all just you taken away from the environment. You can't go back there, or else you break other laws. Um, but yeah, I lost everything. My grandmother's great grandmother's silverware. I've got stuff from my dad passing and stuff that he gave me, letters from my father, pictures of my children's toys, um, trophies that I won with my cars, um, all sorts of personal stuff, clothing, all gone. And um, super, super, super scary shit. So I was released on bail, and I went back the next day to court, and I asked the judge to allow me to go to Florida with my son because we had this family trip planned, and away I went. She granted me the ability to go. So for the next week, I went to Florida, licking my wounds, so to speak, with my son. Enjoyed the week at Universal Studios. At the same time, was a little frightened about the situation that I was in. I was due back in court the following Monday, and and I had no idea what to do. I retained a lawyer at that point, as per the recommendation of one of my friends. But I also knew at that moment that I had to get to get private representation because public defenders are definitely overworked and underqualified to actually work in the justice system, and that's fully my opinion. But I know it's a good one. Um, they're way overworked. Their caseloads are just way too crazy. Majority of them don't even know what they're doing, and in a lot of cases, they can cause their clients to actually get charged with or um, end up with them doing more than they actually even need to, or more than they're even charged with. Anyway, I had a lot to think about in Florida. When I came back from Florida, though, um, Tara had contacted me on social media, and I knew that it was against the law to converse with her. And I'm not admitting things, but at the same time, I can tell you right now, there was a conversation where I found out that she was interested in doing something that would help the situation. She was remorseful for not only lying about the events of the evening, but also about what she'd done to me. And so it was communicated to her to show up to court on the 9th of April. She did so, and in doing so, my attorney actually had told an additional attorney that there might be somebody at the courthouse that needs legal representation, and so that person showed up and represented her for free in front of the courts, in front of the judge at that moment. Just kind of gave her an idea of what you know. Actually, was just there to kind of protect her. I think. I don't know because I wasn't able to talk to him or to her. But from what I was explained, it was just something to kind of help her out. She showed up on April 9th. I stood in front of a judge. She made a statement that A, she would never been afraid of me and that I never hurt her. B, that the events of the evening were misrepresented by her that night when she told the police. And C, that she wanted to have the restraining order lifted. This is all on court record, and I will upload those photo files to you and leave them in a little link below. But yeah, she said all those things in front of a judge under oath, all that good stuff. It wasn't enough, really. It was so fresh that the judge didn't want to grant the release of the no contact order, and but it was noted that she had made those statements. The next month was tough. I had to maintain my work, go to work, find a new place to live. Thank you, Todd, for letting me come stay with you, and thank you Cody and Sarah, for allowing me to come live with you for that month of April, um, and early May. But I had to get back on my feet, and it sucked. Um, and I was also hurting from the fact that I was in such a codependent relationship for 2 years that I did miss her very much. So we definitely, during the month of April, I was in contact with her physically and via social media. Yes, I just admitted that, but none of it's going to really matter now. Um, we had gotten together a number of times in her car. We'd made love, talked a lot, and she was very remorseful, wanted it all to end. She also had trouble with rent and bills. She'd never been responsible for all those things. I had paid 98% of things, and all of a sudden she's left with all this stuff. So I tried to make it easy on her, and in April I paid for a majority of things, still at my old apartment, my bills, etc. So, middle of April comes along. She thinks it's a good idea to go to the rally and work the rally with Tino and his team. Hi, Tino, if you're watching this, I absolutely have zero respect for you now, too. And shame on you. I went to help Tino in the months prior to this happening by selling some of the things that he had up for sale to try to help him with his property and the loss of his family. And then after this whole event, they sided with Tara and decided to believe whatever words that she said, and then ultimately accused me of trying to steal from them when everything that was yours was actually in gigantic boxes that said Tino in gigantic letters on it. There was selling stuff on eBay for them. But anyway, thanks for making that judgment. It shows me your true quality and character, and I have absolutely zero respect for you anymore. Good luck on rallying. I enjoyed watching you rallying, but I will never speak to you again or your wife or any of that stuff. Anyway, I digress. So during the month of April, we were in contact. It sucked because I was gonna, ultimately probably get in trouble for that, but things were actually pretty civil. I was definitely lovey-lovey in my messages to her. I was sad. I did utter a couple words about self-hate and suicide. I definitely um, discussed things that I probably will come out of anybody in a dark situation. And it sucked. I just will tell you that much right now, for both of us. But I maintained, and I both thought she was too. But she quit her job to go to work at the rally, and she lost her job, and ultimately started panicking even more because she had no income. And meanwhile, I was trying to get more of my possessions, and I had actually offered to give her money to move my stuff from my apartment to my storage unit. I told her that's a good way you can make some money, and she took the money and never moved the stuff. So beginning of May comes, and she has a job interview with with a friend of hers that was co-worker or employee at my old work, and ultimately I found out that she was cheating on me with his best friend back in November of 17. And anyway, long story short, she hooks up with this guy, gets a job at his job, hooks up with him that night, moves him in pretty much that following day, and all of a sudden, best relationship she's ever had in her life. Um, so she has this whirlwind romance in the month of May, June, um, and it's with a coworker of hers, but also, they live together, and he was, in my experience of meeting him, just a gigantic piece of shit. But um, supposedly they were in this whirlwind romance, and he was like the greatest thing that ever happened to her. So in the early parts of May, he had convinced her to go to the police and tell them that we'd been in contact. She did so, and then he also added on a whole bunch of shit that wasn't true. That I had been outside their place of employment, that I was outside their house. I stayed far away from all of it, but anyway, trumped up a whole bunch more charges. Police showed up at my place to work and arrested me again. Additional felonies, additional gross misdemeanors. So all in all, I think I was charged with 4 or 5 felonies and 2 or 3 gross misdemeanors. So I am now currently in the month of May of 2018 the most wanted person in Mason County. But police showed up at my work. I was completely docile, followed all directions, arrested me, took me to jail, and there I sat. Mason County Jail is probably the worst place on the planet, but I made do. But during those 2 months in Mason County Jail, my health needs were not listened to, and ultimately, I collapsed in jail and was rushed to the hospital. That is pretty much the start of, well, my May and June in jail, and also June, July in the hospital was pretty much the start of the nightmare, the worsening of the nightmare. I was transferred to three different hospitals. I was prepped for surgery twice. I had a major blockage due to my Crohn's disease, and I was pretty much this close to having surgery like that. Yeah. Anyway, I was transferred to three different hospitals. I was treated well at one of them. Huge props to Tacoma St. Joseph's Hospital. Absolutely total no props and disrespect to Mason General and again Virginia Mason in Seattle. Um, I was treated the worst I've ever been treated as a patient or as a human being at Virginia Mason in Seattle. So if you work there, I'm sorry, but I am absolutely disgusted with the way I was treated medically and personally at Virginia Mason Hospital in Seattle. I was in the hospital for 2 months under lock and key, under armed guard. Could not contact my parents or my family, could not make phone calls. I was presumed dead. My lawyer finally got a hold of somebody that got a hold of somebody that got him in to see me at my hospital bedside, but I still could not communicate with him. And meanwhile, I was getting shoddy, if best, medical attention. I was not allowed to walk around, which is probably one of the most beneficial things if you ever have any sort of GI issue. But Cry Me a River, it was just dreadful. At the end of that 2 months, finally something happened in the legal hodgepodge of thing, and my lawyer was able to work some miracles. They realized how bad my health was, and I was put on electric home monitoring or house arrest, and without any explanation. They walked in, they handed me a business card, they put a bracelet on my wrist, on my ankle, and left. I had no clothes, I had nothing in the hospital, so um, I had to frantically make some phone calls and figure out what to do next. My health over the 2 months that I was there was pretty dreadful. I got gotten down to 85 pounds. If you guys know me, I'm pretty small as it is, but 85 pounds is absolutely crazy. But I was able to eat, so it's bad shape. Um, so this is where my first thank you has to come out. My biggest thank you. Um, Michelle, I know you're probably still out there listening, but um, at that moment, a good friend of mine allowed me to come stay with her and live with her and recover at her house. And it was probably the most significant thing that any friend's ever done for me. I didn't have a place to go, didn't have a place to live, and she reached out and allowed me to do that. So I don't see her up there anymore on the people watching. So unfortunately, she already bowed out. But Michelle, thank you so much, and she's just an amazing person. And those of you who are part of Rain City Subies know Michelle very well. Michelle was also my right hand person for all of the Big Northwest stuff that I did, and just an incredible person. And so a big shout out goes to Michelle. Um, so I was in recovery mode. I was in house arrest. I was in court probably once every week for the next 2 or 3 months. My case was continued and continued and continued, and during which time um, Mason County sheriff and prosecution realized that their star witness, the only person that was accusing me of all of this, had then, by that point, had committed about 5 felonies. She not only stole and forged that car title and sold that car, committing two or three felonies: grand theft auto, forgery, and selling a vehicle without owning it. I think that's a felony. Anyway, 3 felonies there, but she continued to sell all of my items on Facebook. If you know who that is and you bought something from her, a majority of the stuff that she's been selling for the last year is mine. And there has been a huge open investigation of her, as well as the sheriff's department, in regards to investigating the car theft, but also um, the prosecutor that was originally in charge of my case had to actually quit and move jobs because of all the crap that was going on. I was biasly treated by the prosecution in Mason County. They absolutely were certain that I was just a huge violent person, but there was just no evidence of it. Even the correction officers and correction facility was the officers especially were very shocked by the fact that I was charged with all this stuff because they were in charge of watching me for that period of time, not only in jail but also on EHM, and and they were just like, no way, this is absolutely can't be you. Um, so I spent 287 days on electric home monitoring. My trial was scheduled and rescheduled 9 times. Um, and ultimately, during that whole thing, their case disintegrated. Um, Prosecution actually filed charges against my lawyer. I had to buy a lawyer for my lawyer. Um, I lost my whole life savings defending my innocence, by the way, or proving my innocence. And that should never happen. And it does often in this country. Um, and currently, I am a free man. Um, there are no charges. I was required to go to a domestic violence assessment course, which I passed and with flying colors. If you are watching this video and you've ever been in a relationship with me, thank you for writing letters to not only the lawyer but also to the courts. Um, I can't tell you how thankful I am. Ex-girlfriends coming forward to say that there's no chance in hell that this person could be a violent person towards women. Um, it really helped me out. I mean, it helped me, my heart. I don't know if it helped me in the court system. Character stuff like that doesn't really have any effect, but it should. But thank you very much for doing that. People who did write those letters and do those things for me. Um, huge thank you to that. For the people who actually backed out, blocked, and pushed me away and believed everything that she said, I am absolutely going to say good riddance to you. I was taken out of a Subaru group. I was uh, spoken poorly about at WCSS, I believe, the last year. All sorts of people were willing to believe everything that one person says. I'm not asking you to believe everything that I say. I'm just trying to give you the facts, and I will do that. I will actually back that up with physical evidence when I link that stuff to these videos. I am a very happy man to be free. I have done everything that I can to not only increase the amount of uh, presence and things that I do for my recovery, but I have also done everything that I can to try to give back to the community that I now live in. In case you haven't heard, I live on a farm now with my dog who's asleep. Um, I my health, as I said before, is super like changed for the better. It's not 100%, but I am on a new medication through my GI. But I'm also my tricks were I cut gluten and dairy out of my life as much as I could. I totally cheat sometimes. I love cheese, and I absolutely love Cheez-Its. But there are some things that I cheat on, but definitely reduced the amount of gluten I take in and almost eliminated all the dairy. That was the easiest part. But my biggest, I'd say my biggest attribute to my health being better, and I'm a huge fan, and I will praise all the marijuana gods in the world, but CBD oil has changed my life. And through this and through increasing my health and reducing my stress and increasing my or bettering my diet, I can tell you right now, I've been on high doses of CBD since July or June, July, August, and it significantly changed my life. I do a tincture under the tongue, and I do it multiple times during the day, and it's just the bomb. Changed my whole life. And if you have any of the things or ailments or health issues that CBD has been known to help with, I highly recommend it. So, anyway, my life changed exactly 1 year ago today. For the worst at first, that rhymed, and now for the better. I'm a happier person. I'm a healthier person. I'm definitely not hateful towards the other person that was involved, but I do hope that she's held accountable for the things that she's done. I now have physical proof of her committing 5 or more felonies. She still has possession of a lot of my items, my personal items, pictures of my children, family heirlooms, all of it. She currently still lives, I believe, in the same place that we used to live together. And the other big news is she is full on pregnant. I think she's actually due to have her baby this month or next. And she's pregnant with the guy that she hooked up with immediately after me. No, because she was with the guy during this whole thing, coworker. So now her new coworker that she was with in May, she broke up with in July. She got knocked up on, from what I believe, WCSS around that time, July, and now is due with a baby from that guy. Kicked him out and then started dating her boss, who used to be actually my boss, like 3 years ago at a wrecking yard in Grapeview. Um, I have no hard feelings for that guy other than the fact that he's absolutely delusional and thinking that he can have a relationship with somebody as mentally unstable and physically abusive as that person. And I have, I really actually think he was a really great guy, a great boss to have. But she currently, yeah, banging the boss, coworker who she's having the child with, still believe is there. So boss, her coworker, and then the guy that she cheated on me, number 7, also works in the same office. So if you can say drama, I would say it's that. It's a soap opera of drama at that office, and I do not, absolutely do not envy it. I'm so glad I dodged that baby bullet. I dodged the what the go to jail for life bullet, and I dodged the health bullet, surgery bullet. So yeah, just regular matrix stuff. I'm completely, fully, and utterly thankful for the fact that I survived. For those of you who know me and care about me, thank you for any of the support and all of the support that you've given me over the last year. A lot of you guys have not known about this though, so that's another reason why I wanted to come out and do this video. If you support what I've been going through and any of this video makes sense to you, please comment below. I'd love to read them. And for those of you who have been there, thank you very much. I think I see Jacob on right now. Jacob and Izzy, super, super big thanks to you guys. For those of you guys who know Jacob and Izzy, just amazing people. Um, I have to have a moment to give a huge shout out to my second cousin Susan, who helped me get and be where I currently am, which I'm not going to divulge, but I just absolutely can't thank my family enough and the rest of my family for supporting and believing in me. I've been abandoned by my family before, and it just felt amazing to have for them to have my back. So I am going to do everything in my power in the years to come to volunteer and to do everything that I can to help people, victims of domestic violence that are falsely accused. And this brings me kind of to my biggest last statement, my biggest opinion about the situation that I'm currently or just was in. False accusations of anything, violence, whatever, theft, um, for the people who falsely accuse, um, that law should be the laws involving that should be as severe to the person who falsely accuses people as the actual person that may have done it. Um, I was falsely accused of domestic violence by my significant other 1 year ago today, and I will tell you right now, as a young man early on in my life, all the way up till now, I have never raised and will never raise my hand towards a female in my whole entire life, or a child, or an animal, for that matter. I have probably the best relationship I've ever had with an animal with this little girl right here. Hey, come here for a minute. Come here. Um, so, uh, if there's anything that shows me proof that if I were from an external point of view, um, and kind of assessing this whole situation, is very violent background, upbringing, and accusations, domestic violence, and all sorts of crimes. I mean, she got pulled over like 17 times. She was involved in a theft. She was a break-in, yada yada. And then to me, I did have trouble with the law back in 2005. I did have a drug problem back then, and that was what my trouble was with the law. I did my time, I got sober, and I've been sober ever since. And I've been a great father to my children. I've got two kids. I've been a great dad to this little girl. Can you say hello? You know I love you. I know. You know I love your kisses too. Yeah. Um, but I will tell you right now that that just doesn't make sense. If you were to hear her side of things, and she's going to play the victim and say that I was abusive, it's the same story with the last umpteen of all of her boyfriends. And I am not. I'm a huge fan of the Me Too movement, and God bless you if. And I and sorry, and I'm sympathetic to you if you've gone through something like that, and I commend you for coming forward and speaking the fact that you're a victim, and telling the world and possibly even going after the person that was guilty of that. But absolutely, totally um, disagree with somebody who is in a position that manipulates the system, and by that meaning I am absolutely um, sure of the fact that she had been involved in the domestic violence situation and in the system before, and she had been in so many relationships that she had falsely accused the other person of being violent, that this just became second nature to her, and she has to keep living the lie. And to falsely accuse somebody and cause so much damage to their life, my life, by doing so, that should actually be a punishable offense by law. And it's not. We've seen in the news a number of national occurrences of false accusations towards men. And I will tell you right now that this experience was traumatic to me. I am not asking you to claim me or to label me as a victim, but I do feel like I'm going to have to go through some serious healing to not only trust to be in a relationship again, but also I will probably have an issue being physical or close to anybody for a while. And that's sad because I am full of all sorts of love. And if there's anybody uh, who if I were to look at me from an external point of view, I know that my relationships, I've always been one to pour my heart into them and be so caring and loving for the majority and the entirety of them. That yeah, it just baffles me that um, that I was treated this way, and it feels good to talk about it. And thank you guys for listening. Um, so I want people out there who have been falsely accused by men out there that have been falsely accused by women to speak out. Um, I think that there's an equal amount, well, not an equal amount, but I think that there's false accusations that spin every different way. I don't wish anybody any harm, and I don't wish anybody any negativity. To tell you the truth, she's already going to deal with a whole bunch of legal issues with these felony charges that they're being investigated. But I feel horrible for that child, and I just I don't I just want accountability to be taken care of by the people who've done stuff, and I think that's one of the biggest oh my gods in this whole thing. The other biggest oh my god is the fact that she this morning actually claimed on her Facebook that I had taken a plea and that it was an admission of guilt by doing so. But I can tell you right now, I was charged with six felonies ish, five or six, and like three gross misdemeanors. And for all that to go down to, hey, you have to go to domestic violence assessment course. Do you think that they dropped that many charges that quickly because of guilt? No. Um, Over the last year and realizing that she'd been committing felonies and realizing that all of her words were actually untruthful, they actually charged my lawyer and went through a whole motion hearing trying to disqualify him because of her and her statements. They quickly realized that they had nothing and that they will, there was never anything. If there's anything, that there's actually evidence, physical evidence of me being violated that night. But I don't care. What I really want, I'd love to have my things back, my personal items, autograph things that I met all sorts of great race car drivers and all sorts of people in my rally and Subaru life. Um, she decided to keep all that. She kept my race shoes. She kept my helmet. She kept my autograph jacket. I mean, all sorts of stuff that really meant a lot to me. And she knew it meant a lot to me. She probably took them outside and had some sort of seance and burning festival doing it. Said some sort of spells and whatnot. But when it comes down to it, I have been able to wash my hands clean of those material items. And I've learned that being controlled by the things that you own is very wrong. It's not a way to live. And so I'm good. I'm really good. I've had to rebuild my life, and I've had to recover. And I've done that with my health. I've done that with my head. I now live in a cool little place that I remodeled myself, and I learned how to do it. I do live in a tiny home, which is kind of the way I wanted to be anyway. I live on a horse rescue farm and a dog rescue farm, so there's a ton of animals around me at all times. I absolutely love that too. There's goats and sheep. My favorite is Moscow the mule, but actually, my favorite animal in this whole universe is this little girl. So Lucy has helped me through the loss of my dad, but also through this situation. And I actually have to say a big sorry to her on the video that I'm doing right now. And I know this is going to sound silly, but for the 2 years that I was in a relationship with this abusive person, physically and emotionally abusive person, I neglected to love my dog. I was not allowed to. Any sort of affection that I projected or that I had for this little girl. And you guys know how much I loved her before I met this person. I used to take her everywhere and all sorts of places and events and festivals and whatnot. All of my love for her stopped for 2 years, and she was harshly affected by it. She lived in a kitchen. She was closed off from the rest of the place from with a baby gate. She was no longer allowed to sleep with me, which she'd done her whole life. All sorts of bad stuff. And I have to say a big sorry to her um, for allowing another human being to affect how I love my animal. So she is actually officially my service dog now. She has been certified as a service animal, and we are closer than ever. And she gets to do all those things that she used to. She has just been my angel, and I absolutely love her to death. Um, Lucy's 5 years old now. She's a rat terrier, Chihuahua mix, and she's super smart. And I absolutely, absolutely adore her. Thank you. I know. So I also have to again make a huge shout out to my family, my mother in Florida, my brothers in Illinois and Michigan. I know that one of them is not on Facebook, but I love you. Thank you for helping me through all this. For those of you out there that know the other person, I will let you decide whether or not to share the fact that I did this video with them. I really don't freaking care. But I also want you to just make your decisions based on what I've told you now and what you know of me as a person, but also with some of the things that I'm going to post as links after this in the next few days or whatever. For now, though, this is all you're going to hear about um, when it comes to the events. And yeah, oh, cool. I haven't even been watching your comments. I'm so sorry. Um, so I have to be a big give a big shout out to my family, to Michelle, to Todd, to Cody and Sarah, to Izzy and Lucy. Sorry about that. Lucy was growling a little bit. Um, so I want you all to know that I love you and that I've survived this whole thing. And I mean no hurt or harm towards anybody or hate towards anybody. This will be a live video that's going to stay on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Please go to my YouTube channel if you want to watch some of my weekly updates that I did during this whole period of time. I think they date back from July to hi Jacob, hi Izzy. Oh, thank you for you guys too so much. Thank you for Jeff Baker for taking care of me through my not only my work at the time, but also teaching me a new skill and bailing me out and being an awesome as boss. I seriously just have nothing but um, yeah, baby's daddy's name is Mitchell. You're absolutely right. Yeah, if you want, I can out all their names, but yeah, Mitchell is definitely baby daddy. Mitchell, I believe, still works with her, and she's now dating Kevin. And Kevin was my boss, and now she, yeah, I don't know. If there's anything that I've also learned from this is that this person definitely uses sex as a power kind of I don't know, power climb to the top. Whatever she needs, she will get through doing that. Yeah, yeah, Molly is Kevin. She's with Kevin now, but Kevin is definitely not the baby daddy. Mitchell is definitely the baby daddy because she got pregnant in July. But yeah, anyway, I want you all to know that I've become a stronger person because of this. I'm definitely not depressed and down and out. I will overcome and I will get through all the challenges that I face from now on. I will always be honest with you about everything that happens in my life that you're questioning or that you wonder about. I would love to hear from more of you. I have definitely been recluse and kind of a hermit the last year, but I've kind of had to be. And yeah, yeah, Molly, it's a huge love triangle. Yeah, so she cheated on me. Like I said, if you didn't see the start of this video, she cheated on me 8 times that I know of, and the last one being a guy that she worked with named Josh. But then she met Mitchell, got together with Mitchell in May, and then hooked up with him for like 3 months, had him living there, and then complained about the fact that he wasn't paying rent, which she never did with me. And then ultimately ended up kicking him out. And then, I guess she got hooked up with Kevin. And I knew that something was up because she was super hush hush about being in a relationship with Kevin for months. And I knew that she's an Instagram girl and she had to basically be super, super vocal about who she was dating and how much they loved her and all that stuff. But yeah, very silly. I'm so glad that you guys are watching. Ashley was there at the very beginning. I actually reached out to her to try to find out some information that I didn't know. Um, Ashley knows the Shelton area and whatnot, and has actually knows the family pretty well. And Molly, hi, haven't seen you for a while. I actually met Molly through Kevin when he was my boss. But yeah, you guys are awesome. And yeah, so anyway, I did dodge a bunch of bullets, and I went through a lot of stuff that could really cause a lot of pain and suffering and depression. And I want you guys all to know that there are people out there um, that care about you and that help. I'm gonna get all choked up for a minute. That help you in more ways than you know when they do the very smallest things. You know, reach out, say hello, say I love you. Um, it helps somebody that like me who was going through this immensely. And I made a turn for the better uh, uh, shortly after. Um, I guess I got released from the hospital and I realized that my health was the most important thing. Back then, I thought that I was actually going to go to jail for like 40 years. Um, and I was scared. And I don't think I'm actually over that fear. Um, Going to prison for anything like 10 years was a death threat for me, or a death sentence, because of my health and how much I need to be able to maintain my diet and my medication. In case some of you guys are thinking I'm bullshitting about this, hold on a second. Oh my god, it's the first time I stood up in like an hour and a half. Fuck. Hermit. You guys know that person is a sailor. You guys be educated a little bit about. I know you guys have seen the commercials, but ultimately, if you guys want to see $28,000 in liquid format, there it is. Bam. I'm currently on Stelara. Stelara is a biologic that they use to treat Crohn's disease, and it is the most powerful of them. Stelara costs $28,000 every 8 weeks. Yes, 28 grand. That is a Honda Civic or base model Subaru Impreza. That is a top of the line Kia Sedona. I don't know. But yeah, 28 grand every 8 weeks. I have to inject this into myself, which I'm totally afraid of because I absolutely hate needles. But I've learned to. And these little things are cool because you put it in and then you push this thing down, you depress it, and then it actually shoots back up and it takes the needle with it, which is kind of cool. But so currently on Stelara every 8 weeks may have been a good reason why I feel better, but I still think that CBD oil is because I only started feeling really better shortly after I started doing high amounts of CBD oil. In case you didn't guys didn't hear me plug CBD earlier in the video, huge fan of CBD oil. If you don't use it, or if you need to use it for anything that ails you, sleep, anxiety, Crohn's disease, whatever it be, chemotherapy, rehab, any of that stuff, do it. It's so worth it. Huge fan. I take high doses, high milligrams. So I'm doing 1500 milligram tinctures under my tongue multiple times during the day. But huge change in my life because of CBD and because of lack of dairy and gluten. So I did those changes. I changed this. I'm on CBD, dairy, gluten, gone. High doses of CBD and probiotics. That's the other thing. So huge fan of that. But everything works differently for everybody. If there's one thing that I hate, it's people telling you what works for them because they thought that that it's going to work for them to think it's going to work for you. I'm just going to tell you about my experience, what worked for me, and let you guys do what you want. But huge advocate for CBD, huge advocate for probiotics. They're both over the counter and both easy to get. Now you guys have heard CBD's all over the news right now. Huge fan, huge fan. Huge fan of therapy animals too. I live on a farm now with like 38 animals. Hi, Ashley and Dan, if you guys are on here, thank you for letting me be here. Um, it's just amazing to be able to go out and pet goats and sheep and listen to them and talk to Moscow the mule and spend time with my dog out there and chickens and hens and all sorts of stuff. I never just thought myself as being a really big fan of the farm, but I am. I've had to kind of rebuild myself individually, health wise, and emotionally. But you all know that I love cars, and I am definitely sad because in the next 7 days, I'm probably going to say goodbye to two of my cars, and I'm kind of bummed about it. But good things are going to come from it. I'm going to put the money that I get from those cars towards my old silver car, and yes, hi Michelle. Yes, you left. And you also, Michelle, you missed your big shout out. And I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that you weren't up there. So I'm gonna do it again. Hello everybody. Sorry, it's gonna repeat, but one of the biggest shout outs that I have to give is to Michelle. Michelle was there when I got released from the hospital and I didn't have any place to go. She's probably did probably did one of the greatest things that any friend has ever done for me by taking me in and and allowing me to recover at her home and also discover my love of cooking again. um, I miss your kitchen. It was gigantic. Um, but I fell in love with the fact that I had a friend that was willing to go out on a limb for me and go against what her friends were telling her to do and what her family was telling her to do and actually reach out and say, no, I'm going to help this person out that I care about. And I just have to say thank you for that. I really do. You don't know how much it means to me. It means so much to me that you did that and that you were there for me. Um, yeah, you really you really find out who your friends are when you end up in situations like this, and you find out who turns their back immediately. You find out what groups you get kicked out of. I am not a huge fan of social media, um, but I'm also not innocent from it. We are all affected by how we portray ourselves and how we represent ourselves on social media. And over the last year, I've learned a lot about staying quiet and staying off of social media. Um, from my legal advice not to be on social media, but also just from general well-being in my head, not being on social media. Um, yes, Michelle, you're right. And I talked about that I cut off all my friends when I first got in this relationship. But social media is the devil. I can't say it any other way. I won't get rid of my Facebook because of so much memories and photographs and stuff of my children and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, man, social media has ruined more of my relationships and has dictated so much shoving, pushing, and all sorts of bullshit, emotional stuff in relationships and friendships and even family that I just am not a huge fan of it to be anything other than uh, like a yearbook in a sense. I love connecting with old friends on social media, but yeah, seriously, to hell with social media and how much it dictates our lives and relationships. It is just so horrible. So if you love somebody, if you have good friends, if you're in a good relationship with somebody, seriously, do what you can to hold them, eh, hold them close, tell them that you love them as much as possible. Um, Call them on the phone if you can't physically be in their presence, but be physically in their presence as much as you can. Uh, Life is way too short to be angry at people. Life is way too short to promote hate and to promote harsh feelings towards people. Life is way too short to be false. Life is too short to let the little stuff bug you. And this was big stuff. Um, so, in 1 month, I turned 44 years old on the 22nd, 44 on 22. I haven't been able to make any plans up until the 25th of February because I didn't know about my future. I didn't know what it held. And now I can. And I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly. My mom is in kind of bad shape health wise, and I do plan on doing what I can to be available for her. She lives across the country, though, like all the way across the country in Florida. And although I spent a number of years in Florida going to college, which I would be really cool to audit some classes because she's actually in Orlando where I went to school. But I have a child in Florida, in Miami as well, and I would love to see my daughter, who I've been um, cut out of her life for 10 plus years. Not because of anything I did, just because of the way her mom feels about me. And that's horrible. But I'd love to be closer to her. That being said, though, I love Washington. I do not like Washington's justice system or sheriff's departments. But I love this dang state and I love you guys. Um, I thank you for listening to me during this couple hours that I've been on. Some of you guys have been here the whole time, some of you guys just on and off. Um, I will post this video, it will be permanently on my profile, as well as go to YouTube and you can watch all of my weekly updates for, yeah, I was trying to weekly, bi-weekly some of them, but you can basically see in my face how my transition went from January till now. I think the last update I did was in February or something like that. So yes, I have zero charges. If you want to do a criminal background check on me, I have zero charges from this whole ordeal. Um, I um, I did say that I would do a domestic violence assessment, which I've done, and I believe I passed. I don't have all the report on that, but the guy who did it was actually laughing in the whole thing because he was just amazed that I'd been accused of something like this. Um, I have to tell you, no matter what, be prepared for anything. Please, even the people that you love as much as I trusted her, I now look back and I'm probably gonna do things that I've never done before when it comes to my safety in a relationship because um, I should have I should have really done more to protect myself physically and emotionally, and I should have walked away from that relationship a long time ago. My bad for trying to help somebody, and that's, I mean, yeah, there's no excuses, but that is my excuse. I definitely get into relationships with females that have kind of the tainted, troubled backgrounds that I try to. I'm one of those stupid guys that tries to fix shit, and I know you can't fix it. Um, I spent 2 years of my life focusing every moment of my life on one person. I tried to help her get her high school diploma. I helped her have a place to live. Did all of her laundry, cooked all of her meals. Um, I did everything for that person, but um, it just severely backfired in my face. And you do live and you learn, Michelle. You're absolutely right. And I've learned a lot of lessons. I'm going to volunteer right now for not learning any more lessons, please. That's it right here. Um, I'm not gonna probably trust for a long time. Being in a relationship right now is kind of on the very bottom rung of my desires and needs. I am lonely though, so if you are um, free to hang out and are in the Northern Olympic Peninsula area, please shout out to me. Send me a message on Facebook. I will gladly share my number. My old phone number is currently still in police custody. My phone is still evidence, and I still haven't gotten it back. But um, I don't. I just don't know. I don't know what else I can say. I am happy to a certain regard. Actually, happier than I've been in a long time. And I have to say, I'm sorry for neglecting some of my great friendships that I have with a lot of you. And if I did that and I any way harmed our relationship or our friendship, please reach out to me. I'd like to make it good. I would like to do what I can to spend time with you, especially if I end up moving across the country because I don't know how long I'll be gone. Um, for those of you in the car community, I will be here as long as I am here. And if I do attend anything, it's going to be Old School Reunion, WCSS, and maybe some of the charity events that happen in the area. I'm not a huge fan of anything else. I love you all. You will find me again in my 2.5 RS that's supercharged. I tried to get a hold of Pacific Import Auto. I'm going to try to see if they'd help me get it all dialed in. But that's boring car stuff. Yes, I miss my car people, and I live, eat, and breathe cars every day. So I get enough of it from that. But I do miss the enthusiasts that I love. Um, I love you all. I hope that you all know through my friendship with you and through the history that we've had that everything I've said on this video is 100% true. Um, I I definitely don't wish anybody any harm. I don't. I'm not begging for you to be on my side or to create any sort of public opinion about anything other than the fact that I did this video for closure. I did it to state some of my opinions on things, and yes, they are just opinions. I don't live my life by my opinions either. If you have proof to prove any of my opinions wrong, I would love to hear about it and have a discussion. I'm just one of those people. Uh, I will never rule out anything. Um, yeah, little car emojis. That's awesome. I have been live for 1 hour and 45 minutes, so I am going to stay on for another 15. And I would actually like to open it up for those of you that are still on to questions. So if you have a question, I'm also a little stuffy because I've been crying a little bit, so I'm going to walk away for a minute, fix that. But if you have a question about the last year or the events that I've just discussed, or any other questions about what's going on with me currently, I would be happy to answer them right now up until 6 o'clock. And then I'll make this an even 2 hour video. Again, it is on YouTube, it is on Facebook. I will probably cross post it again to wherever else I can. I will provide links to photographic evidence of text messages regarding the infidelity as well as the lying and cheating and all that good stuff. I do have photographic evidence from March 28th of 2018, and all of that stuff will be posted under these videos via links. I think my majority of like PhotoBucket and some other photo sites will be shared with a lot of this evidence, and then you can make your educated decision on where to stand. If none of this matters to you, I'm cool with that too. I just want you to know that I'm here. I love you. I'm alive. I'm better. Um, and I'm in a good place. And being in that good place, I am actually trying to open myself up to going out and doing stuff, because for 278 or 287 days of house arrest, I was not allowed to do that. Um, so I was just allowed to go to my Narcotics Anonymous meetings, work when I had it, and grocery store, doctor's appointments. Sorry, what was your question, Michelle? I'm sorry. Thank you. I don't know when I'm leaving. I'm actually still kind of in the starting process of making plans. I've exactly been free for 1 month and 3 days. So 33 days, 34 days, I've been free. And out of those 34 days, I've ventured beyond the area twice. So I really don't know when I am leaving, if I am leaving. Still working on that. So, anyway, if you have some questions, please start typing them out. I'll go back. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm just going to run out over to the restroom and grab something, and then I'll be right back. Please stay. Ask me some questions. Okay, I'm back. Oh, oh goodness. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry I haven't come and visited you, Michelle. I really am. I actually drove by your place yesterday. I went to Port Angeles to pick up some car parts. Unfortunately, I still have the addiction of looking for car parts. Um, okay. In regards to the Forester, so in the video I mentioned that Tim committed some felonies, and a bunch of those were regarding this car that I was sold by my boss. That she forged some documents, some state documents. She forged not only a bill of sale but also a statement of ownership and whatnot with the state of Washington. So that's been investigated by Mason County Sheriff a couple times, and it sparked an internal investigation that I was actually interviewed for. One of the officers um, was uh, was investigated for his collusion and I guess influence that he was given by the prosecution's office. I don't know what that's called, but anyway, he was investigated. There was a new officer that was in charge of investigating the Forester. So the current person who has the car reached out to me about a month ago, and we talked on the phone for a good 2 hours. And Todd is now my friend on here, a different Todd than you guys know. Um, and Todd and I talked, and we both were in a kind of a shitty spot. He had a vehicle that I was technically the legal owner of. Um, he had bought that vehicle from somebody who he thought he was buying it from legitimately, and so the vehicle was supposed to be for his son, and I felt bad. Um, even though that vehicle belonged to me and I kind of wanted it back, I could definitely use that vehicle not only if I sold it for, for flipping it, but also for using it. I've been driving around a couple little junkers for a while because I haven't really had a good, reliable car. Um, so anyway, we had this discussion for about 2 hours about how shitty the situation we were in. Ultimately, it came down to the decision that I was into it for a certain dollar amount, and he had actually overpaid for it too. So I felt even worse by saying it. But I said that um, if he was willing to pay that dollar amount that I was into it for, so basically I get what I put into it back out, that I would sign over the title. So I did so. We just made that deal a couple weeks ago, and I hope that he enjoys the vehicle. And he is actually pursuing legal charges against her on a civil level, but also through prosecution of Mason County, um, in every way that he can. He's been calling them like crazy. The prior owner that she actually forged the signature of in order to get the title put into her name originally when she stole it from my glove box on March 3rd and 21st of 2018. She is livid pissed. She had her name forged on a document that she didn't ever sign, and super pissed about it. And um, so I plan on contacting her and letting her know that, if my situation and whatnot. But I'm sure that the pressure that she puts on the prosecution office, as well as the pressure that Todd puts on the prosecution office, as well as the pressure that I will most likely write a letter to the prosecution office, will hopefully result in somebody taking accountability for their actions. I'm a huge fan of that. If you do something wrong, admit it and pay for whatever consequences it is, and it sucks. Sometimes you get in trouble for stuff that you unfortunately did and feel bad about, whatever it be. But it's better than not admitting to it or accusing somebody else of it. Um, in more ways than one, you don't even know. um, as of this weekend, I'm no longer going to own any classic Subarus, and I'm slowly trying to make plans to be able to make decisions on where to go next. Um, what other questions do you guys have? Yes, Amanda. Always take responsibility for your actions, and that was probably one of my biggest messages of this. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Be accountable. It builds on your integrity. If there's anything, if there's one of the biggest words that I fester on, it's integrity. I'm a huge fan of it. A huge fan of honesty. Huge fan of, um, taking care of your shit. And then if you're good at it, go help other people as much as you can. Okay, Michelle, I'll come by. I'm actually going out to Port Angeles on Sunday again, because when I went out there last night to pick up car parts, I discovered a classic car barn garage find. But more to come about that. It's still kind of top secret. I'm headed out there again, so maybe I'll have my boss pick me up at Salisbury Boat Launch. Um, yeah, maybe I'll do that Sunday. Oh, are you gonna be around? Oh, you're not gonna be around this weekend. You said that. Not to talk about your plans on live Facebook, but yeah. So this coming week I will. Coming up next week. For those of you who live in the Kitsap Peninsula area, if you are a car person or not, we get together on Friday nights in Silverdale, and I will be out there this Friday, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. It's kind of right below Seaback Pizza across the street. If you want to come see me, I'd love to see you. I will have my crazy. I do need to join Subaru Anonymous, but I'm no longer going to have a lot of Subarus. I'm just going to have one. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely trying to get my silver car done, and I'm looking forward to it. All these people keep messaging me; they don't know I'm live. So, any other questions? I have another 5 minutes. I would absolutely welcome anything that anybody wants to ask about the situation. And like I said earlier in the video, and I will say it again, this is probably the one and only time that you will hear from me about this situation. I'm not going to be a keyboard warrior and post about shit regarding this situation, frustrations, any of that stuff. I just don't do that on Facebook. I will share my happy times with you on Facebook. I will share, sad times that aren't related to this kind of bullshit. But my thoughts, song lyrics. Some of you guys didn't even catch that Depeche Mode song the other day. Oh my God, you thought I was talking about pain infliction on people. I have to go. Okay, see you, Michelle. Um, yes, Jacob. I'm sad that the rally car is going to. I had like 4 people message me about it today. I really want to work something out with you and Izzy, if like she was saying, but I don't know. Um, I might not be around to. Oh, thank you, Michelle. I love you. I really can't tell you how much I am thankful for you, your hospitality, your friendship, um, the people who support you, your parents, your children are amazing, your dogs. I am only a great cook in a great kitchen, and you have one of those. Actually, I'm a pretty good cook in my little tiny kitchen too, but I miss doing big baking projects and stuff like I did at your house. I am currently actually being crazy about baking and cooking gluten free. So I'm doing everything that I can to find stuff that I love to eat, because I think that was one of my biggest scares. Is I was a foodie and I was told not to eat the foods that I love. So I'm trying to discover things that I love that are gluten and dairy free. One of those being, and if you're very special, you get one of these, an apple crisp, and I'm really good at those. So Michelle, I'm getting even better at my apple crisps, by the way. Thank you for being proud of me. I appreciate you very much. Any other questions that anybody has? I know Sean was on here. Oh, speaking of Sean's, big non shout out to Sean Leffendahl of Dick Hanna Subaru in Vancouver, Washington. Sean was a good friend of mine for like 8 years, 10 years, maybe even. Sean always had a struggle with being part of the cool kids. He always was wondering why he didn't get invited out to stuff. So he started sponsoring shit and he's throwing money at rallies and throwing money at big car shows. And if you see him, he'll be at Big Northwest with a number of people also that I don't have a lot of love for. But Sean made it a point to get involved in my relationship right before this happened. I found out that he was messaging, keyboard worrying with Tara and calling me all sorts of things. It was really disappointing because I never did anything to harm or to deserve that from Sean. So if you know Sean, just know that he is super two-faced and will never ever be your friend until you can give him something in return. And even then, he will stab you in the back. I'm definitely a victim of that. And also, a big, huge mystery is my friendship with Steve Johnson. I love Steve to death. I was there when he was hit and run. I was there to support him and do everything that I could to help his family during that time. I've been through thick and thin with Steve, and I have no idea why he now treats me the way he does and has said the things that he's said about me. Um, so, not a huge fan of the people that don't support me during this time, and uh, I have not. I, I'm making sure that he makes the first move because every time I try to contact Steve, he goes into a fit and starts blowing up you guys' phones. So, yeah, no idea. If Steve's interested in getting a hold of me and wants to talk about things like adults do, I would be a huge fan of that. So, huge fan. Um, so I love him to death, and no, there's a delay. I'm lagging. Um, I love him to death. I love a lot of you incredibly more than you guys even know. Um, I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I will be making some pretty big decisions in the next few weeks about what my future holds, and I will do everything in my power to communicate that with you. I do make a vow now to be a little bit more active on social media. I have pretty much been on an ultimate moratorium with social media. I have been more active on Instagram. If you want to be friends with me on Instagram, my Instagram name is, okay, ready for this? Aether Airfire. So Aether, I say it that way because it's actually Ether. It's AETHERAIRFIRE. Um, that is my Instagram, and I am much more active on there. I'm a huge fan of photos, and I'm still trying to learn some of the cool things about Instagram. So I will be definitely more active on Instagram. I I do thank you all for being there to support me and being my friends. I'm now over the 6 o'clock mark, so I've been on here for just over 2 hours. And if you've been watching the whole time, you are absolutely insane. Um, I'm not that entertaining, but I really appreciate you. If you have watched this whole video and you do care to make a statement or to talk to me about anything, please comment below. I will do my best to monitor those and get back to you. Um, that is it. I love you, and I'm a free man, and I have zero charges. And yes, um, I'm back. In case you guys are wondering what this is right here. Bye, Felicia. Um, I have a new RV, so you will see me at events with my new RV. So look for that white, orange, brown, baby shit yellow colors, because it is a 1978 and it's cool as shit. So um, I love you all. Oh, I see my mother's on. Hi, mom. So thanks for watching. I've been on for just about 3 hours or 2 hours. Sorry. My God, I'm future tripping. If you'd like to get together, please reach out. I have weekends free and would love to see you. And I appreciate those of you out there who have been supporting of me and my situation, who have known about it. I appreciate those out there who have listened to me this evening. Um, I am not a huge fan of talking about it, but so this is pretty much it. But if you want to talk about it later on, um, talk to me about it. I'll be open to it at some point. Um, I love you all. I want you all to stay strong through the hardest things. I've currently been charged with 6 felonies and 3 gross misdemeanors, and I got through it. Granted, it was very lengthy legal battle and a whole bunch of heartache, but I also have to big shout out to Bruce Finley, my lawyer, and mom, you missed it, but a big shout out to you and to my brothers and the family that I love and adore. I've missed having my dad around, and he was always my rock as much as I disappointed him. But it's been really hard to get through this. So I love you all. Not as much as I love Lucy. I love Lucy. No, I'm kidding. I love you all just as equal. Um, that's Sir the farm cat. He wants in, and I'm going to say goodnight. I'm 5 minutes over, but thanks for tuning in. If you get a chance to watch this, also go to my YouTube site. This video is actually on here, but I'm not looking at the camera as much as I am looking at the Facebook one. So I'll be looking like I'm having a conversation with random people. YouTube username is Poet Kirk, POETKIRK. Please follow my YouTube channel because I do plan on making that a little bit more active. There are weekly updates on there from the last 8 months of my life. And hey, no, I'll let you in a minute. I did get you cat food though. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell my dog. So watch the video. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you all. I hope to see you, some of you car enthusiasts, at some local meets, but I'm not going to attend a lot of them. Tell me which ones you're going to, and I'll try to be there if I'm free. I love you guys, and I appreciate you tuning in. Be kind to everybody in your life. If you haven't reached out to people that you love, do so now. And remember to be thankful for what you have, grateful for what you have, and humble for who you are and what you have. There's one thing that I absolutely have learned through all of this is that you're only as good as is what you can overcome, and I've done so. I know, I see you. Have a good night, guys. Oh, I'm still on YouTube. Yeah, okay. All right. So I'll stay on YouTube for a minute. First of all, I gotta look at this. What is that? Oh, funny. So hi. In case you just watched my Facebook video, 2 hour long deal, you're still watching it on Facebook. Just know that I'm sorry I wasn't looking at this camera the whole time, but Facebook was on my phone, and that's where I was. Anyway, if you would or care to share this video with people that may or may not know me but have known people that have been in domestic violence situations, please do, especially male accused of or falsely accused of or victims of domestic violence. All my best to everybody who's ever in that situation. I love you all, and I will sign off for tonight. But I want you to know that good things are coming. Hopefully, with my YouTube stuff, I do possibly plan on making a trip across the country. So I do possibly plan on making a trip across the country, and when I do so, I will try to document a lot of that on YouTube, as well as Facebook and Instagram and all that crap. But I will be doing video check-ins on YouTube primarily. So that's it. That's all I got. Um, I am in a better place. I am in love with the world again, and I miss all the people who I've uh, systematically cut out of my life because of a harmful relationship I was in. So yeah, it's good to be back. Um, it's a crazy world. It is a crazy, crazy world. And I'm glad I'm here with you in it. I think my adopted cat's eating my dog's food. Hey, hey. No, I got your food. Anyway, later, guys.